The next presentation will be focused on participation rules and in particular on funding, and will be done by Maurice Serral, ANR France.
Okay, we are at a training. It means that I am not to say nothing. I have only to answer to your questions, because you previously read the content of the call and now you have questions. It's the reason why you are here. I finished my talk. It's to you to talk. Okay, I can do some introductions. What is very important at the applicant's level first, it's if you are a university, if you have an institute of research, if you are private partners, if you are NGO, first look if you are eligible and how you can be at the applicant level eligible. You follow the national rules, because in the call text you have all after the general framework. You have for Egypt, for Algeria, for France, for Spain, from Germany. You have all the details first of their funding, and secondly, what are their topics which are funding. It means that first, all the countries which are here can answer to the call. They can answer to the call and they can be funded following the national rules. Some countries perhaps are not sponsoring and no grants for private partners. Some are. It means that each time you have to come back to the national rules for the different countries. Second point, it's not because your country is not on the list that you cannot apply to the call. You can apply to the call with Palestine, you can apply to the call with Israel. I don't think that they are there, if you would like to. But for this country, which are for US, for Great Britain, I think that, but for this country which could be associated to the work, associated to your program, a research program, they must be self-funded. And we must have a letter from their organizations taking the assurance that they will be funded. But it's open to everywhere, to everybody. And what is important, you see that you have a number. I take the French number, 2 million euro. What is important is not, for example, our Egyptian colleague who say, oh, there are a lot of money for France. I will try to work with them. If you read my national guidelines, I have limited each national team to 200,000. What I've expected is to fund 10 projects with France. This is important, and you will have this information at the level of your national guidelines. It means that each time, each team of Morocco, they are limited in terms of budget. And all these things, you have not only to check that, you have only to see what is the maximum amount of budget which is available for each team. And at the national level, you have to contact your contact point. They will give you some advice, for example, about how many applicants they would like, or another magnitude of the budget. If you are private, public, and if you could be co-funded. And also, what is important, what is important is now, you read Jordani, they are funding energy and water. They are not funding the cross-disciplinary nexus. It means that if you are with a partner from Jordan, and if you are proposing a project on the nexus, you will not be eligible. Even if only one partner is not in the scope of the team, you will not be eligible. And you must be careful, for example, that Egypt, this institution, if you are asking to, there is 2 Egypt institutions. if you are asking to this RSRT, they are only supporting water and the energy, it's another one for Egypt. Must be very clear. And you must be also careful that, for example, Germany, a lot of people want to go to Germany, but Germany is only supporting energy. If you look at Spain, it's the same, only energy. You see, and you have some countries like Tubitac, like Cyprus, like and so on, who are funding the three dimensions. This is very important because it's at the base now. We have a lot of contact by phone with some scientists, and they were waiting that table because they want to build their consortium. They want to build. You have a project, you have an idea. You need to work a minimum with 3 partners. The best will be 5. And now you have to choose your partner. And these partners are on the list, you see. And you have to take care about that. Do you have comments about the process, or is it clear for you? Yes?
The national rules are set per country, no? The national rules are set per country.
Each country, they have their national rules, and furthermore, sometimes each institute or each organizations could have their own national rules. For example, for Egypt, you could have 2 different, and for France, we achieved to have the same, but at the end, it could be different. But you must be careful that you have to apply to read the national rules of, for example, CNRS France, which could be different from ANR France. Each time you are allocated to.
So it's not one per country. It could be. It depends on the funding number, the number of funding institutions.
When you have 2 institutions.
Yes, like France and Egypt. So you have kind of 2 national rules, because they are funding different topics also.
I don't see the point.
Just let's take an example. For example, for Egypt, which is the most clear. Egypt, one institution is funding energy and nexus, and the other is funding water. So the national rules cannot be common to both institutions. So if a partner from Lebanon has to search for someone from Egypt, he will have 2 national rules, kind of 2. Yes, maybe Zainab can reply to my.
Yes, for Egypt, if he wants to work with energy, he doesn't look at ASRT, he looks only on this one. And after, if he has 3 or 4 other partners, he has to look at 3 other national rules.
Can I add something? Actually, when a researcher in Lebanon wants to join the ERANETMED call, he needs to check for the Lebanon rules, the funding rules, the funding agency in Lebanon. The Egyptian researchers in Egypt, they search for the Egyptian rules. This is one thing. So you don't have to worry about the others. In the consortium, you will have a minimum of 3 countries. Each researcher or applicant from each of these 3 countries, they have to check for the national rules. So what applies for you will not apply for the Egyptians. Fine? But it is per funding parties. Per funding parties. It is easier, for instance, in Malta, in Cyprus, because they are one. So you're considered as the country rule for this call. But for Egypt, it is 2 funding parties. So basically for researchers, and this is what we advise them, is to check the national rules if there are several ones, and check if they apply for both, because actually you don't write in the proposal, I want to be funded by this funding party. So at least you will be compliant with all the rules, so it will pass.
Because Egypt is some misunderstanding of two organizations.
There is no misunderstanding.
No, for me at least, for me. Egypt now was different from another country. Egypt now has 2 funding agencies, different 2 funding. For example, for SDGF, finance energy and water, and it's the same. ARC finance water.
Maybe the font is a bit small. Energy and the nexus will be funded by the STDF. ASRT will fund water, pure water, the theme of water. There's no misunderstanding.
What is important is that you answer to, for example, if you want to answer to water, there is only that one. And if you want, and I think when you have two topics, for example, for France, it doesn't matter because we will discuss between us. Take this one or don't take that one. You see. We have arrangement after when the topic. But be careful of two things. The first one, that the topic is funding by this agency, and the other one is, do you are sure that your institution is funded by this institute? In Algeria, in Turkey, we have difficulties. Sometimes they are funding only universities. Sometimes they are funding only institutes for the Ministry of Research. And be careful about your laboratory. Is it allowed to have the grants?
And this also applies in for Egypt. Is to ERC finance only the Water Institute, or can finance the university and other organization in Egypt? Is restricted to certain organization or all organization in Egypt?
First of all, the national rules will be published 1st of November. But as a general rule, we are not restricting to any organization. And it is not ARC, we are ASRT. ARC is the Agricultural Research Center, and ASRT is the Academy of Scientific Research.
No, I said for water.
It is Academy of Scientific Research, not ARC.
Yeah, Academy.
Okay? So, and since you are referring to the call identifier, there will be no mistake. In case of Egypt, there will be no mistake, because you have the call identifier for water, so it will go. It will go directly to the ASRT funding, the eligibility of checking the funding rules for ASRT.
What is important in the call, in parallel, after, in annex, you will have all the national guidelines. It means that if you want to be a coordinator, you are Egyptian. Of course, you are reading the national guidelines for yourself. But after, you have some friends, I don't know, in Spain, you have to look if they are eligible for them. They are all in English. And if they are eligible, you can contact them as coordinator. And so on. And it means that you have to read, if you are a coordinator, perhaps you have to read 5 or 6 national guidelines for each country. Because very often the coordinator didn't do that. And after, he has a group of people, but some are not eligible. And after all the projects, if you have only one member of your consortium which is not eligible, the project is not eligible. The project falls down. It will not be evaluated. It's an important phase to check this before to work, before to write the proposals. Yes?
Maurice, away from the national rules and I speak about the project. If the coordinator should to choose or cross-cutting issue, or can choose one or two of to apply in his proposal? Was cross-cutting issue socio, governance, ICT, and gender has to be all cross-cutting issue, including in the proposal, or we can choose at 2 or 1? It is convenience of coordinator.
No, each project will have clearly one coordinator and different partners, and the different partners will be funded by the different countries. Okay. Sorry, what kind of issue?
Cross-cutting issues. Socio-economy, governance, ICT,
but
and
we will
gender.
come back. It's another problem. We will come back on the topics. Okay, it's clear for this first approach is to check who can be funded. And furthermore, if there is, I say again, if there is one country or one institution which is not on the list and you want to work with them, you can, but they must be self-funding. They cannot ask some money to the ERANET consortium. About the topics, our Algerian colleague presented in details. It means there is no, you have to identify one topic. You cannot answer two different topics. Perhaps if you are in a large laboratory can propose several proposals. One on water, one energy, and one in nexus. If you have a group of 200 or 300 people, no problems. You don't need to have only one applications for one laboratory. You can, but what is, we can say, forbidden is to have the same scientist which is doing that, and that. How we will sleep, okay? The people will check about his time, and he has to select. He cannot belong to several topics. I think that about the topics, about with just transdisciplinary team, the importance is to have also junction of energy research and energy to, for example, pump water, solar energy to pump water, to reuse the water in agriculture or in aquaculture and things like this. But with that, in this transdisciplinary team, there is importance to give to the socio-economic, cultural, and the context of policy and governance. What is the idea? The idea is if you have applications in rural areas, in small village, with integrations of independency of renewable energy and water cycle for the village, but as well for agriculture or for human consumption and things like this, you need to have all the rules which to share, for example, the water, all the economic components of the water, you see, and how the problems of the sewage treatment will be treated, things like this. All this is in the nexus. I think that in energy or in water, you can have hard science, water treatment, desalinization, osmoregulations in desalinization, try to work on new membranes or things like this. It's very, for chemistry, you see, very dedicated to one hard science topic. But on the nexus, it will be more integrated between water and also, but water and energy, but also between the people who are using them. And how you can propose better systems also to make the things working. It's what is under policy governance at the regional, at the local level. In fact, the people, the funding agency, we know that we have problems in energy. We have problems in water. But we know also that the social and political and governance problems are very important about energy and about water. And they must be addressed. And if you want to be candidate to the next, to the third one, put attention on this aspect. Do you have comments about the topics? Quite clear. And now a last word about the instruments. All the projects, collaborative research, it means that it's research between different labs and different status, universities or organizations and things like that. It's classical. What is not classical here, that we introduce innovation. What means innovations in our language? It means that you can be associated with private partners. But to be associated to private partners, you have to come back to this table to check if, for example, for Ryanair, private partners are eligible. They are. They are at what conditions? They have some conditions. They have to put 50% of the money, and they could have a grant of 50%. But if you are looking to FCT, if I remember well the rule of FCT, private partnership, they could not be granted. Or for CNRS, for France, the private partners are not eligible. It means that each time, if you want to do, we can say, more basic research, for example, you are going with FCT, but if you want to address some point with an industry, you must find another agency. It means that innovation, you can do innovation not only with private partners, but because you want to associate private partners, but they must be in the national guidelines also. And furthermore, we put some phrases like including prototype, development, and demonstration. And you have to check very carefully if it's eligible, because for some agencies or some ministries, it's not research, it's demonstration. It's, yes, pilot studies. It means that you know what to do at one scale, and you want to demonstrate that it's working well in another context. It means that this criteria of innovation, we try to push it, but there are some barriers, there are some legal constraints from the different institutes to support these activities. It means that if a project, it's only collaborative research, it's nice. If it's innovations, in French we say c'est une cerise sur le gâteau. It means that it's an added value, but perhaps you could not reach that point. For capacity buildings and mobility, it's important to have good training, good participations. We want participation from north of the south, but furthermore, in each project, we want to have a component of capacity building and mobility. It means that inside the project, for example, for us, we are funding 10% of the budget for capacity buildings and mobility. It could be summer school at the end of your project, you see. But it could be also that Tunisian takes some French for PhD, and Morocco will go to France for PhD. Exchange of PhD inside the project, funded by the project, you see. And mobility of grants. Furthermore, but Maroum can give some information about SIAM. SIAM will fund some grants for mobility. And you saw that in the previous table, the first line is SIAM. SIAM will not fund research per se. It's not a partner like the other one. First, it's not a country, it's an international organization. And SIAM will fund grants and mobility, grants for masters and of science. And they will be nested in each project. It means that if you are from Egypt, and if you want to fund 2 or 3 masters in water management, not on energy, water and nexus, it means integrations with social demand, governance, they will have to apply to SIAM. Maroon, perhaps you can say one word about that?
Yes, Maurice, thank you. As a matter of fact, we are offering this type of mobility for MPCs. It's only for MPCs. So, as Maurice was saying, if you foresee in your proposal the training of somebody to get 1 year or 2 years training on water and water nexus, you can apply and we will finance the mobility. Okay, only, but I repeat, only for MPCs. Okay, thank you, Maurice.
It means that if you have not enough money, you see, for example, between, for country from the south or MPC to go to the Nordic for training, exchange, learning new methodologies or things like this, you can have, if you have not enough money, you can ask a grant to SIAM, and they have 300,000 euros to cover that. They will have a selection process of the students, but it will be with the coordinator of the project. It will be inside the project and selected by SIAM. It's very important, and it will be, I say innovation, it's, if you can do innovation, we are pushing you to do innovations, is to have a good continuity with the private partnership. It's a good continuity with public research and private research to have results at the end, to have operational research which is working well, applied research. But the other one, capacity building and mobility. If the reviewers that say that look at your proposals and you have not developed any project in these areas, it will be a bad point. Okay. Now I can answer to questions because it's mainly the, you have to select your instruments, select your topics, select your partners, and select your fundings. Do you have some question in the idea from you or for your colleagues that you will widespread the news after in your countries? And
I only want to inform everybody that today on the website you will get each country what they are financing. So it will be clear for everybody, because everybody was asking, now that we have almost all the national rules, we'll not put the national rules, that will be published with the call, but at least now we already asked all countries, they confirmed what they are financing. So people then can start creating their consortium.
Yes, it's very important, the contact, the link with the national correspondent. You will have, with the call, names. For France, you will have two names, my name and Fabrice. When I am not here, it will be Fabrice. It means that the French will ask me some questions, but also you, from MPC countries. If you want to find, for example, the French team, you can ask me a question, who is working on plant genomic in resistance with water or water management, reuse gray water and desalinizations, and as well in public, in universities, and in private, you see. The contact points are there, first to give you the rules about the guidelines, but also to support you. And we want to build a networking, you see. And when you have no contacts in some countries, because we see quite well, we had the call in ERANETMED, and in ERANETMED, the mean number of countries is 5 countries. And when you have a common topic together, it's very interesting to have more than 3 countries, you see. Because first you have comparisons with different locations, with different conditions, with different drivers, you see. And also it make in your project a larger critical mass, larger number of people. It means that your research will go faster. Perhaps it's a bit more complicated for the coordinator to coordinate it, but it's very interesting for us to have critical mass behind each project. We can say the idea, we'll write nothing and I will say nothing. You did not listen for me. But The idea would be to have something like 13 projects of 1 million each. It means that we want to work at large projects. You see? 1 million, it means that you must be something like 5 or 6 countries for each project. It must be a minimum of roughly, we have 13 million, 13 projects, something like that. You see.
Thank you for your presentation. I ask about if it is possible to give us MPCs procedure or steps to follow to launch project for good managing of the project, to verify funding, terms, topics. So it's a simple procedure.
Yes, it could be difficult for some countries and some institutes or universities which are not working on the base of project. Yeah?
I have comment because for me, I am researcher in renewable energy. I am not a project manager, or I not do this initially. Okay, to facilitate my work.
Yes, and it's important to speak about that. I think it's because it's also an evolution in Europe, an evolution in MPC, where instead to have the money coming directly from the ministry, when he has no money, we have no money. Okay. Now there are more and more calls at the EU level, but we are discussing about some other instruments in like the Article 185 in the MED, or some other co-funds. Next year, we'll have a co-fund on water and irrigation with the GPI water. And it means that you will have a lot of opportunities to answer to calls. And of course, it doesn't appear like this. First, you need, I think, a good idea. A good scientific idea. You must be innovative, but not too much innovative. You must be, because you will have only 3 to 4 years, 3 years to do the job. If you are expecting too much, perhaps you have marvelous ideas, but after 3 years you will do only that instead of that. You are not the right to sell in your different work package things that you are not, you cannot do, you see. It means that you need good ideas and good planning. Each time in a project, we will ask you different work package. It means different tasks, which can be done by different countries or which can be done by different people. And the task, it's a scientific progression of your work. You are doing some experiments of water treatment. After, you want to test them on the field. After, you want to look if there are no virus or contaminants with pollutants. You have a logic. You see, if you are working with energy, it's the same. It means that you need to have, but it must be good ideas. It means that it must be ideas which are not soon on the market. It's ideas where you have to innovate. And in the area of water and renewable energy, very often you have bricks. Bricks are there for solar energy. But they don't resolve the sun abrasion. They don't resolve connections. They don't resolve a lot of little things. What we need also is to have good assemblage of all the things which are on different shelves. It means that, and this you can do it yourself by coordinator, by thinking, okay, I have 3 years, I could have 1 million euro, what can I do with that? And I want to do that, and a very precise plan. And after, you are looking around you, oh, I am alone, in Algeria or in Lebanon, and you want to do your plan. It means that you have to find the teams in a network you have, or if you have not network, you try it on Google and on Web of Science, and you will find references of good scientists, and perhaps they will be very happy to work with you. If you are beginning, a lot of scientists have soon some networks. First, because you did your thesis in one country, and if you are a professor, you have some students everywhere. I have students in Korea, in China, I have some in US, and I have students everywhere in the world. I can have a world network, you see. With 20 students from thesis, it means that it's very large in Korea, in Tunisia, in Morocco, and so on. It means that you need to have your relationships, you see. And with your relationships, or if you haven't, you can ask to the national contact point. For example, if you are asking for a French collaboration, I don't know, on energy, I can give you names and after, you see. But the second step is the management of the project. The management of the project, it's more easy. And you can be supported by people from administrations who know about the cost statements, who know about all the... But here, the coordination is more a scientific actor. He must be a manager, but he's not in charge of the budget for the different team. He's in charge only of the budget for his team, his country, which is more easy for when you answer to an EU call. The coordinator is in charge of all the teams. If you have, I had one with 16 countries. I had the budget for the 16 countries, and it was 15 million euros, you see, quite large. To manage that, you need a team behind you, an administrative team to support. But in this case, if you are working with Tunisia, the Tunisia team will do their cost statement and their report. You will be in charge, the coordinator, of coordinated the work, of coordinated all the reports, because at the end, ERANETMED, they want to see the results, not only the results of their Tunisian group or the Tunisian of your Algerian group, but the results of all your project. It means that the role of the coordinator is also to consolidate the different tasks, to consolidate the different reports on a final reports from all the project. It's important for the coordinator to be well recognized by his friend, from the scientists from the other countries, because he will be under his scientific leadership. Even he has not the power for the money, because the money is at the national level. But under his leading role, scientific leading role, all the countries which put at the beginning their intention of work, they will do the work. You will have to manage meeting each 3 months, 6 months, phone, Skype conference, and all these things, to be sure that all the groups is working with the same dynamics that you are pulsing.
Two main questions. Just going back to the funding a little bit. In terms of funding, so the research group in a country will report back to the funding agency of that country. My question is for cost sharing. They also report to that to the countries, because I know in Lebanon and for some other countries we are requesting from organizations to cost share when they apply to a proposal. So how does that usually work within that context if there's previous experience?
Could be one of the tasks of the coordinator. When there is a common instrument or common infrastructure which is used by several countries, his work is to split between the different countries the cost of a common use of.
No, I'm talking cost sharing at the national level.
At the national level.
At the national level. Is that taken into account, or if you have some previous experience from other projects?
You want to say that when you have, for example, an equipment, an instrument which is partly used for your project and partly used by some others?
No, I'm saying if a partner, for example, in Lebanon, a university joins the project, we're asking, for example, that the CNRS will cover, let's say, 60% of the cost, and we're asking the university to put some funding as well with us to get, sorry? Sorry, co-funding. Sorry. Co-funding.
Maurice, I mean, it happens in that according to the national rules,
yes,
that each funding parties, if the rule is to fund 50% by the funding group, by the funding party, and 50% by the applicant, I think the source of funding shouldn't interfere in the coordinator's work. He will be managing the budget as a budget coming to the project.
okay, but my question is if there has been any previous experience in that, and how do they report, I mean, the funding, for example, in Lebanon, if we ask that, we ask for example, the university to, the funding statements they provide would include both the share that the CNRS is contributing as well as the share for their co-funding. So it's...
I don't have experience in ERANETMEDs with co-funding,
okay,
for the national rules. But generally speaking, if you are applying a co-fund methodology, you should have the whole budget with the statement, and it shouldn't interfere with the ERANETMED whole budget.
It doesn't, no, my question,
budget?
yeah.
If you go to, there is a website platform of the Commission, learn about NetWatch, where I think there they are dealing with the co-funding. Most probably you will find all the rules there already on that platform, NetWatch. Okay, called NetWatch, and you go. There are all the rules for co-funding and so on. I think you can get inspired from other like ERANET Plus or co-fund and.
I think it will be very dependent of each agencies and each system. For us, for example, we are co-funding with the private parties. It means that they have a total cost of research, including their salaries, and we are co-funding only 40% for the large industry and 50% for the small-scale industry. But it's clear they have to demonstrate that they have total cost, they have spent this amount of money, and we are reimbursing 50% of their cost.
Okay, so in terms of that, it is dealt with at the national level, and not within the within the ERANET proposal or portal or so. Okay.
No, it's not at the national level. Another thing which is important that. With the previous experience, we need that when a team, a laboratory has difficulties, I don't know, a country X say to the ERANETMED, okay, we'll put €1 million in cash to support our team, but after 1 year, the team has not received his money. And it's a duty to the team to say, not stay at the national level, but first to say to the coordinator, sorry, I cannot begin the work because I don't receive the work from my ministry, from Lebanon or from elsewhere. And after with the coordinator will come back to the core secretariat, and between the funding agency, we will try to solve the solutions. And for ERANET, the previous call with the MPC, for some countries, it takes more than 1 year to find a solution to have the way to find the way to give money to the teams from the ministry to allocate the money to the team. And for some money, for some countries of this call, is not soon resolved. It means when you will have problems, send the information to the coordinator, and after, between the countries and between the ministry, we try to find the solution to support, to help you.
I have a question regarding the reporting structure. if you're planning to have projects with a minimum 5 countries, participants, and like 1 million projects each, I think even at this stage you have to like warn the participants that they will have to report, and they have, you already have some reporting structure. I didn't hear in these presentations, and I don't think it was ever mentioned if you have like scientific reports, technical reports, if you have financial or you have to present an audit at the end. I don't think it was ever mentioned.
For us in the ERANETMED, we have only one board. We have one board, which is the board of the funding agencies. It's a list, the board is this list. And after, we will have some, we can say, executive board for the core, for the evaluation. But they will not be permanent. Evaluation will be during 4 months. We'll have an evaluation committee with independent experts nominated by all these core board members. And when they will have ended their work, the evaluation committee, but it's the topic after. The evaluation committee will give their results to the board of the funding agency, and the board of funding agency will decide to, following the ranking of the evaluation committee, they will decide to co-fund different projects. And after, all the applicants, all the coordinators, they have only to report to this group. And even after 1 year, 2 years, and perhaps after the end of ERANETMED, this group will still be in live to follow the project, to be sure that they have innovation, to be sure that they have impact. And we will try to measure the impact of our funding between this group of people. It means that this is really the core group of the core, and the core, and it must be maintained all the life of the ERANETMED and sometimes after. There is another question. It means that if a region or a partner is asking a specific report, of course, the Italian team for the Region de Puglia, for example, they will report about their work. What is important is not to have the report only of the Italian groups from this region. It's important to have the whole report of the project. It means that our proposals is to have only one report for each proposal, full with all the details from all the partners. And if it's requested by the Egyptian partners to be paid, they will give their part of the report. And for Italy, they will give their part to the region. You see, you will have 2 reports each time, one specific, which will be the Italian part, and the whole report of the contract.
Okay, so will it be specified somewhere in the rules or on the website when you actually issue the call on the 1st November? Is it written somewhere, what you just described? Okay, good.
Yeah, we can do it, yeah. You have some more questions?
Suppose that my project has interconnected topics, for example, hydropower and irrigation. So we have 2 different topics. In this case, should I split the project or leave it as it is?
Sorry, it must be a project, or?
We have 2 interconnected topics, hydropower and irrigation.
Yeah.
So in this case, should I split it or leave it as it is?
If it really hydroelectricity and irrigations, I think you are in the nexus, because electricity, it's hydroelectricity in the first topic. The second topic, it's relation with irrigation.
Yeah.
Efficiency of irrigation.
Yeah.
and perhaps reuse of the water in the irrigation systems.
Yeah.
In that case, you will be in the nexus, and it would be nice if you could join also all the the cost of the water, the cost of the dam, the cost of the investment, and how is the water for irrigation is free, how you can control the, and the problem of the governance, you see, how you can control the use of this water, you see.
I would like to ask about partner due diligence. Sometimes donors require to do vetting for partners so that they will not have a linkage to or supported by any terrorist. So I'm not sure if you do such exercise, and if so, who's responsible to do that from your side?
To push the different partners and with enthusiasm to try to bring them. If a coordinator has difficulties with some partners which receive their funds, but they are doing nothing, they are going away or to the beach with the funds, it means that it will be the role of the core secretariat and to be in contact, and between us, because we will know each other quite well. I will say to my Egyptian colleagues, for example, oh, be careful, you have this guy, try to push them, to put them some pressure, because if it's a French team, my action will be like this. I will phone to the guy, okay, I have some complaining from people from Morocco, for example, and that you are not doing the work you are expecting to, and I have paid for that work. And they say, if they say, okay, I have people who are ill, but we will do too much in the following time, and we will try to arrange this. If it's okay, it's one. But if it's not okay, I will cut their funding first, and I can ask the reimbursement of their funding if they did nothing.
In addition to what Maurice was mentioning, all these steps, after the contract, there should be a consortium agreement among the partners. In this consortium agreement, the coordinator or all the partners, they participate in forming or setting the rules for this, for defaulting partners, for whatever action that might comes up, and including in the consortium agreement, there should be rules on how to deal with defaulting partners. What are the steps? I mean, sending them warning, written warning, and afterwards there will be a dispute, and if there will be any legal issues, which court they will refer to, which laws they will refer to. So this should be in the consortium agreement.
It's very true that the consortium agreement, it's a large power. You will be forced by us to have a consortium agreement, because it's the way to have a real and a juridical entity of your project.
Thank you, Maurice.